Hi, so today I'm going to show you how you can connect AtScale Design Center to BigQuery. So for my example today, I'm going to use the AtScale public tutorials repository called SML-models. That's on GitHub. You can find it. It has a bunch of information about these three models. For the community edition, when you download the community edition and install it, it's automatically going to configure Postgres and install a Postgres database for these three data sources. So what I'm going to show you today in this example is how to create a BigQuery connection, but also how to load that tutorial data in BigQuery so you can actually test this out with BigQuery. So if you don't like to watch videos and you want to actually read the instructions, they're all here in the README for all the different types of data warehouse connections, including BigQuery. So for BigQuery, Databricks and Snowflake, we can get the data, access to the data through their marketplaces. But for BigQuery, we're going to load it. So click on that directory in this SML models repository, and you can see that there's three different load scripts, one for each of the tutorial models. You're going to want to load each of these into BigQuery. So all you need to do is just copy that data, copy these load scripts. This data is all in GCP, so it's public, and you'll be able to load it. Okay, so I'm going to now switch to my BigQuery console and show you how to load this data in a couple other steps. Okay, so now I'm in my BigQuery console. The first thing you're going to want to do is to create a project. So I've already created a project called AtScale Tutorial Data, and it's dashes because they don't allow for underscores. So just remember that, that's important. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go into IAM, and you're going to want to go into service accounts, and you're going to want to go ahead and create a new service account. When you create a new service account, you're going to want to, it's going to be pointed to this AtScale tutorial data. And for our example for connecting to BigQuery today, we're going to use the service account JSON file to connect to it. So you go ahead and enter, I would enter AtScale-tutorial data as your service account. It's going to give you an option then to download, generate a key. And when you generate the key, it's going to create a JSON file. And that's a JSON file we're going to use for creating our AtScale BigQuery data warehouse connection. Okay? So once you've gotten that JSON file, let's go and load the data by going to BigQuery console. I've already got my data loaded. I put it to this AtScale-tutorial data project. You also notice that I created a data set called aggregates. You should do that because this is where we're going to send the AtScale aggregates to BigQuery. So AtScale is going to automatically create aggregate tables, and it's going to place them there. So we'll be using that when we set up our connection. And then we'll also have our, you can see there's my three schemas or my three data sets already created that has all the tables in them. The way that you would do that is using those scripts in the SML models repo. You're just going to go ahead and paste those in here, like so. Just like that, and you're going to run them. Just hit the run button. It's going to load that data. Again, the data is on a public GCP. It's going to create the schema for each of those. You're going to do this 3 times, one for each of the schemas: AS Adventure, TPCDS, and WW importers. Okay, so let's assume that the data has now been loaded. You're all ready to go. You're all ready to point AtScale at this sample data and repoint your tutorial SML models to this data in BigQuery. So now let's hop into AtScale Design Center. Okay, so here we are. So this is what it looks like in terms of a model. You can see in our tutorial we have 3 models: Internet Sales, TPCDS, that's worldwide importers. And if I open up each of the folders, each one of these you can see has a connection in it. The connection is where you can see that it currently points to Postgres. So this is the AtScale connection. So we're going to change this to BigQuery. So we're also going to change this AtScale tutorial data database from underscores to dashes because Google BigQuery doesn't allow us to use underscores. So let's first create the data warehouse connection to BigQuery in our settings. I'm going to go to settings. You can see that I already have a Postgres connection defined. This is what the tutorial data models are currently pointing to. And this comes with the AtScale Community Edition pre-installed. But we're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and set up a new BigQuery connection. So I'm going to call it BigQuery. I'm going to use BigQuery as an external ID. Now this is important. Capitalization is important. This is the key that we're going to use for that connection object, that SML connection object. So make sure that you do that right. I put in AtScale-tutorial data. That is my project ID that I'm going to be using to send the aggregates to. And I said aggregates is the schema. Now there's lots of different authentication methods, and you can do things like impersonation. I'm going to leave the default to using the service account key JSON file, and I'm not going to configure a test bucket. So I'm just going to go ahead and click apply there. Okay, so I've now created my connection group. Now with BigQuery, with all of AtScale data warehouses, we basically have two different parts to it. We first have the data warehouse group, and then we have individual connections. So why do we have individual connections? Well, we may want to have different connections for different roles, like building aggregates versus querying. So today we're keeping it simple, and we're just going to use a single data warehouse connection. We're not going to get fancy here. So just click on that plus button, and I'm just going to use the same name, BigQuery here. And then here's where you can actually choose your JSON file. So there's my JSON file that I downloaded. This is what I downloaded from the Google BigQuery console, where I went to IAM and then generated that key for a service account. I test connection. I get the green. I then can go ahead and press the apply button. And what I'm gonna see here is that you could see that BigQuery pulls up and connections up. That's all goodness. If you ever need to get in and edit this, you can always use that little pen there. For the connection itself, if you hover down, you'll see the pen will come up. Okay, so that's how you'll get back into that. Okay, so let's go to back to our repo browser, and let's go to our model. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and change that to BigQuery, because that was, remember, that's the AS connection. That's that connection ID that we chose in the setup. And just make sure that you go through and just change that to dashes. So that's going to work. You're going to remember to save the file, and then you're going to go into and you're going to do the same thing for the other models. So I'll do the same thing there. Again, get rid of that. Remember to save the file. That's GPCDS. Same thing with my worldwide importers. And just like that, what I've just done now is I've actually repointed my models to now point to BigQuery instead of Postgres. So I just hit the deploy button. It's going to deploy those models. Now if I go to my deployed catalogs, now I have all my connection strings. And when I go ahead and query using different BI tools, I'm now going to be querying my data that I loaded in BigQuery. That's it.